Welcome, everybody. There's a moment in many women's lives when success begins to feel a little heavy. The job is secure, the routine is predictable, but from the outside, everything appears stable. But our body, it begins to whisper, or sometimes it even screams. So if you're new to us, welcome to Sovereign Soul. And if you feel called, please subscribe to my channel. I'm Sally Arkell-Bowles, and this space is for the women who have truly built something meaningful and are now ready to refine it from the inside out. Here we explore identity, alignment, and the kind of leadership that feels calm, embodied, and sovereign. So let's step into today's conversation. I am so thrilled to introduce you to Shannon Conan. Thank you for joining us today, Shannon.
You're very welcome. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. And Shannon is a yoga and movement teacher with over 2 decades of experience. And she reached her third stress leave before realizing that her body was telling the truth her mind had been avoiding. This is the conversation about burnout, not as failure, but as intelligence, about recalibrating without collapsing your life, and about listening when your body asks for something different. Because the body knows, truly, before the mind admits. So, Shannon, thank you so much. When we look back at your third stress leave, what was your body really trying to say that your mind wasn't ready to hear?
Well, you had mentioned the word kind of whispering, right? And I think my first and second stress leave, there were those whispers, right? But by my third one, it wasn't whispering anymore. My body was insisting that I listen. I had been in a constant state of fight or flight, pushing through exhaustion, but still convincing myself that responsibility and stability were more important than my own well-being.
Wow.
And my mind kept saying, "You're fine, keep going. This is what security looks like." But my body knew better. And so it spoke to me through overwhelm, anxiety. My anxiety was at the highest it has ever been. Um, and fatigue that I just couldn't outrun. The thing now, though, is that I understand that my body wasn't failing me. At the time, I felt like that it was, right? But in reality, it was actually protecting me. It was asking me to stop abandoning myself for a life that was no longer serving me or fitting to who I wanted to become. So that third stress leave wasn't a collapse. It was actually an awakening.
That's beautiful. And I think that there's so many women that are in the age range that we are, and even in younger ages now, that push and that drive and that I'm just going to ignore what's my body's really telling me. Look, I'm tired at night. No, I've got to push through and I've got to do this and that. And we all seem to experience that. And it's almost like we've been, like you said, we've been conditioned to have to keep going and keep pushing and keep showing up. And we don't just show up for our work. We show up for our family. We show up for our extended family. We show up for our community. We show up for the other businesses that we have, et cetera, et cetera. And so it's so easy for us to allow ourselves to get so worn out. We're about to burst. And I had the same type of thing happen in my career as well when I was in the financial business. And I pushed and pushed and pushed for the final quarter of the year for the company. Right until I got to go on my winter vacation to visit with my husband, who was in Calgary at the time, and take our son with us for Christmas. I got so sick I couldn't even enjoy Christmas because my body was just shutting down.
Yeah.
And so it's really incredible to me how much we have to go through before that awakens us.
Exactly. For sure.
And I can tell by the glow on your face, and I've known you for a number of years, that you're really coming from the inside out now. I can tell by how you're showing up and how you look. Now, there's so much more peace there and ease. So congratulations, first of all, on finding that path and doing that. So now, when we talk about people that are in a burnout stage, you are in that secure job system. And from the outside, like you were saying, everything looked stable to other people. But what was happening internally that others couldn't see that you were experiencing?
So I felt a lot like I was just in that survival mode, right? Like
Mhm.
I was living for the weekend. I was living for my days off. I was living for my holidays.
Yeah.
I wasn't living in the present at all,
Mhm.
right? And from the outside, everybody just was like, well, you get summers off, you get Christmas
Mhm.
off, you get spring break off, like, you have a pension, you have all those things. Like, just suck it up, pull up your big girl panties, ride it out. And I was like, I got another 20 years of this. Continue to do this. Do I have that in me? Is that
Mhm.
how I want to continue to live my life, right? And
Mhm.
I felt so trapped because from what everyone was saying to me, I felt that I should be grateful. People would
Mhm. Yeah.
love to have this job that I had, but I was miserable. I dreaded Sundays. I dreaded Mondays. I dreaded going to work. I was so overstimulated that on recesses, I was having to wear sound canceling headphones. And
Wow.
I even remember wishing that I would get into a car accident
Uh-huh.
driving to work
Mm.
so that not so I was seriously hurt, but so that I was hurt just enough that I didn't have
Mm.
to go to work. And that was a huge breaking point for me. So,
Mm.
I think people need to realize that burnout isn't always dramatic. Sometimes it's subtle. Um, but when you start to not recognize yourself anymore, the version of who you are isn't fitting the life that you want to be. I don't know. I felt like that was happening a long time for me
Mhm.
before I actually made a stand, right? And I listened to my own voice instead of what everybody else was telling me.
Yeah. And I think that well, I know for a fact that's very common for women. And it's very common for men as well, but I'm specifically talking about women at this point, is because we've been, like you said, we've been conditioned so much to believe that unless we're pushing, unless we're doing it, unless we're showing up for everybody else, that that's all that matters. And that when we put ourselves aside or we start thinking about ourselves and what we truly want to achieve, it can become so overwhelming and so guilt ridden because we're going to be disappointing certain people, like our employers or our family, or when we want to make that change.
Mhm.
And it's very, very scary and it's very difficult because we're performers.
Yeah.
A lot of us are performers and we like to perform. And so when we make a decision like the one that you've made, where your identity is now changing, right? Your identity is changing from the one that has it all
Hmm.
and the great career and the money and the time and so-called flexibility and the holidays, everything like you're saying. From that point, it starts to change from the profession being the only thing that matters to not only how to do the transition, I need to do it and what's it going to look like.
100%.
Yeah. So now when you were making that transition, how did you get rid of that guilt? How did you manage to step away from that so that you could start showing up how you wanted to show up and make that decision about leaving your job?
Yes, that's such a great question because it's so scary when
Mhm.
you feel like you had this identity, you had this whole life planned out of how you thought things were going to be, and then all of a
Mhm.
sudden you're left with having to rethink that all, right?
Uh-huh.
So, one of the things that really helped me, and I've been on the yoga journey already for a while. So my yoga practice was what helped me and played a huge role in that, right? It helped
Mhm.
separate my identity from my profession. It helped to teach me how to slow down, to breathe, and actually be present in my own life again, right? Because I was
Mhm.
so, you know, striving for the weekend, for the holiday, for that I
Right.
just wasn't present. So every time you show up on the mat, you're breathing and you
Mhm.
have to be present. And
Yeah.
The breath is such a powerful tool that we have that we take for granted, right? But just even stopping and slowing the breath down slows the central nervous system down, right? And it helps you to become present in the moment. So through that, I started to feel my breath again. I started to feel my body settle. I started to feel what it was like to be present in life rather than just pushing through it. So that space helped me see who I really am is not connected to a job title, right? It is so much deeper than that. My identity shapes how I live, how I show up, how I care for myself, and how I care for others. So I stopped asking, what do I do? And I started asking, who am I becoming?
Nice.
Yeah. And that shift changed everything for me.
It really does shift that. And, I have a number of different programs that I work with specifically on identity and who we are becoming because we do get trapped and we get into that cycle that, the North American cycle, maybe it's globally, but that cycle of if we're not proving, we're not worthy. If we're not achieving, we're not worthy. If we're not living in the right house, we're not worthy. Right. And so there's so many things that we are being judged against or we judge ourselves against when we are going through our identity. But when you actually, like you said, slow down, take those breaths, you really embrace yourself in your yoga business. And by the way, her yoga business also allowed her to do yoga retreats or be invited to teach down tropical locations, which is beautiful. So getting a vacation at the same time that you're doing what you love.
Mhm.
But that identity and choosing on who you're becoming is the critical element for all of us because I don't know. I don't expect to be the same person in my 20s as I am in my 30s, my 40s, 50s, and so on. And so, why is it that we get sort of trapped into that cycle when there are opportunities? So, maybe you could talk to us a little bit about that shift in your body because many accomplished women, as you know, that I know, live in their heads. So, how does reconnecting with the body really change your decision making? Because it brought some balance back for you, but how did that actually evolve a little bit further?
Well, I always I'm drawn to that saying that if you live in the past, you have depression. If you live in the future, you have fear. And if you live in the present, you have peace. So that really helped me to become present and be more in peace and not always worrying about what was happening next. So that was a big shift, right?
Yes.
Um, Anybody who struggles with anxiety would resonate, right? That you're always in your head, you're always feeling tense, uncertainty. Well, you don't want to go there, right?
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I find that my mind was always wired for danger, right? Trying to cling on
Mm.
to anything that was predictable or safe. So the idea of stepping away from something that was so unknown was terrifying. But focusing on the present, of course, a practice, right? Just coming
Mhm.
back to that helped me find that peace. I don't know, did that answer that? Or
Yeah. I mean, everybody's going to have a different spin on it, but at the same time, what you're saying is I recognize a certain change. I started to explore some different opportunities, and with that, that allowed me to really make that shift, right? To make that shift and understand how my body was really speaking to me after all these years, right? To
yeah.
ignore it, and allowed you to make the changes that were right for you in that moment,
Mhm.
right? Doesn't
Yes,
mean that it's
yes,
not going to change again or it's not going to shift again, but it's going to be much easier because you've recognized the signs now
yes.
of
Yeah,
what to do with it.
100%.
Yeah. So now, was your shift really dramatic, or was it gradual over a number of years or months, or what was it that you found with that?
I found personally that it was dramatic in the sense because, like, that was it, I stopped working,
Mhm.
right? Like, I remember you're going through that sort of phase where they're trying to get you to go back to work, right?
Mhm.
So I was on the work reentry program, and it just was going horribly.
Mhm.
I had been off for a while and I had started feeling a bit better, and then I started trying to go back to work, and I was just cycling back down, right?
Mhm.
Right down that drain. And so it was abrupt in that sense. But then gradual, right? Because I had gone so far down that rabbit hole of not taking care of myself. It took me a long time to build myself back on up
Mhm.
and start to take proper care of myself,
Mhm.
to feel that I could breathe, right? Like I felt like every breath I was taking was so shallow. Um,
Wow.
I being out in public was very hard. Um, Again, like I had mentioned, sensory stuff was so overwhelming. So coming back from it took a long time. If there's
Mhm.
anything that I could encourage people to do, it's to listen before you get to that point, right?
Mhm.
Like there was a period where I didn't know if I was ever going to feel like myself again.
Mhm.
Yeah. And that's scary.
It is because, as we transition and we recognize these things, we're like, will my spouse still appreciate me or love me?
Right.
Will my children still respond me the same way? How are the ex-coworkers or friends going to respond? How are my parents going to respond? We always sit there with all these worries about how everybody else is going to view us now. And
Yeah.
yet we're still trying to discover that within ourselves.
Are they gonna think I'm a failure? Like, I'm a failure. I couldn't just stick it out. I couldn't do what everybody thought I should do,
Right.
right? There was quite a period where I was so hard on myself, right?
Mhm.
And a lot of negative self-talk. But over time, choosing to listen to what my spirit, what my soul really needed,
Mhm.
the things I needed to do to fill up my cup so that I could then help to fill other people's cups up again, right? Um, so it was gradually refilling my cup, starting to feel like myself again, choosing myself, choosing joy, and those tiny choices all build up to make a big change, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely. And it isn't all like it's not just a one and done. Snap your fingers and I'm out of it. No. If people are acting like that, you know that they're still doing work because it's not possible to happen just by snapping your fingers and it's all changed. Because it is, as you were saying earlier, it's about
Yeah.
becoming the new you and embracing fully who you are now choosing to become.
Yes.
Not who you were in the past, but and no regrets about that because that's what got us to where we are today. And now we get to really have that sovereign soul connection, I call it, because it really is getting deep into your soul and honoring yourself first.
Yes. Oh, yes, I love that. That is so beautiful. And just like yoga, I always tell people, like, it's not yoga perfect, it's yoga practice. And, the same thing with life. Like, nothing in life is perfect. It's all a practice, and it's gonna ebb and it's gonna flow. And some days you'll have it together, other days you won't. Somewhere it's in between, right? Some days you're super
Mhm.
hard on yourself, other days you're super kind to yourself, right? Like, and just not beating yourself up for that, allowing yourself to experience this ride we call life, right? One day at a time, one moment at a time.
Yeah. And I know you've experienced some things that have happened in your life recently. And each of those is going to take you down a different path, even from that experience with some grief that's been happening and some passings in your family. And, you know, my parents are gone, my husband's parents have passed. So we've been through that. But with each moment like that, you become a different soul.
You do. And if you're open to actually listening to it, it really teaches you what you want in life and what you
Mhm.
don't, what's yours. willing to tolerate and what you're not, what serves you, what doesn't, right? It's like
Absolutely.
life changing, life changing.
Yeah. And there's a lot of people in my circle that are going through the same types of things that you and I have gone through, where they're searching for what's next. They're searching for understanding grief and the way that we're losing our family members that are the dearest, and that we count on our whole life to be there. And it's such a tough transition for so many people. And it's an understanding that it's okay. It's okay to grieve. It's okay to miss. It's okay to feel that loss, because this is all a part of life as well.
Mm.
And when you're able to recognize that and appreciate what you've had as those gifts throughout their whole lifetime, to me, that's what's allowed me to really be at ease with the passing of my family members, my parents and Kevin's parents. And so it can be really difficult. And not everybody's going to grieve the same.
No.
We're clear on that. Everybody grieves differently. And there's always things that can happen suddenly and others that are long-term illnesses or things along that type of line. And so I just want people to understand that it's okay to grieve in the way that's important for you and the way that's going to serve you, because there is no right way. And I've seen so many people talking about grief and just their posts on social media and things like that. And we all want to support, but at the same time, it's just allowing your voice to come out on how you're grieving and allowing you to feel what you need to feel and not be judged by others.
I've really, in losing my mom and my sister in such a short period of time, I've I've done a lot of posting about kind of my journey and how I've been feeling. And I want people to know just that it is okay, right? Like you said, there's no one and done. It's going to be different for everyone. And grief isn't something you just get over, right? So
It
yeah.
definitely is. And grief death can happen to any age. I'm right. I've had friends that have lost their children. I've had friends that have lost their adult children. And it never feels the same for any two people, in my opinion. But yet it's something that is a part of life.
Yeah.
Right? It's a part of life, and it's part of that sovereignty that we have in finding that strength and balance within ourselves. Because we might have 3 or 4 siblings and they'll all grieve differently.
Mm. Yeah.
And I want you to also be aware, just for the listeners here, is that it's okay to not grieve the same way as that other person, because you may have had we all have a different relationship with our spouse, our family members, right? Something that's different, that's something that's going to hit you harder than the other person. And so just recognize that it's definitely something that we're all going to have to experience, but we're all going to experience it in our own way, in our own time. And there's nothing about how you're experiencing it. So I just want to make sure people understand that, because I've had a lot of friends posting recently about their grief, and I've actually referred some people to actually start doing speeches and things like that about it, because there's so many people that are being touched about it, and it's easier to speak about today than it probably was 10, 20 years ago.
Yes.
Where we
Yeah. Well, even thinking about burnout, right? Like in the day, like that was so frowned on and it was the weakness. And, you were like broken. And I think opening the conversation around that and, letting people know they're not alone is so important too, right?
Yeah, it absolutely is, having those open conversations today. And I like that, because we are actually talking about the emotional changes, as well as, the transitions that you've done in your career and why.
Mhm.
Like these are great messages that we need to know that we're not alone.
Yeah.
And that this is very much something that happens to women in midlife, exactly what you and I have both gone through in career changes and choices that we've made, and that, like stepping into a whole new career, but one that gives you so much more inner peace and health. Your health,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
No better glow in your face. You're just feeling so much more relaxed and healthier than I've seen you in the past when we were working together with a few different things. So I really enjoy the conversation today. And conversations like this are why I believe refinement is often internal before it is external. So if this season really resonates with whoever's listening today, with our viewers, there are spaces to deepen this work. And so definitely reach out to Shannon or myself. We will put Shannon's links to her different sites and things like that within the show notes. And with Sovereign Soul Mastery, the courses that I have, one of the ones you may want to explore at the beginning, if you're wanting to step into it lightly, is to be able to just return to her. I call it return to her. It has some really neat little opportunities for you to just explore yourself. And it's just something that's going to help you to just get in tune with who you are inside. And maybe that'll be the first step to really being able to make a transition like someone like Shannon has done in her life and not keeping all those opinions of everybody else as the forefront, but really tuning into her body and her soul. So thank you so much for joining us today, Shannon. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you so much for having me, Sally.
My pleasure. Thank you. If you're interested in returning to and becoming who you truly want to be in your new identity, I have an opportunity for you with Return to Her. It's a fun part guided audio and journaling experience. I'll put the link below in the notes, and please make sure to click on that and see if this is the right opportunity for you, just to start to get a peek into how you can return to her. Wishing you the best as we go forward this week. I'm Sally R. Calpoles with Sovereign Soul Mastery. Have a fabulous day.